How can a woman with no military record, no medals, bear a tattoo that only fallen Navy SEALs are allowed to wear? She didn't answer them. Not when they laughed. Not when they deliberately sabotaged her gear. But then, under the 117-degree heat of the Mojave, a tear in her shirt made everything stop. There was something on her back, not just ink, but a symbol once buried alongside an entire Black Ops mission. And the question keeping them all awake at night was, if she survived, what really happened to SEAL Team Razer 9? All right, my dear viewers, get ready for a story that will leave you speechless. Take a moment to like the video and subscribe, and leave a comment below to let me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always exciting to see people joining us from all around the world. In a base where noise is the default, Ellie Shaw moved like a person-shaped silence. She never hurried her steps, nor ever paused. She never picked up the internal phone, nor knocked on the tech shop door to request more equipment. No official title followed her name, just contract technician. No rank, no unit, no one to vouch for her. A number on the assignment board. She arrived at the start of summer, when the Mojave Point heat was enough to melt the rubber from boot soles. No one welcomed her, and no one questioned her presence. In this base, temporaries came and went like breezes too weak to lift sand. Ellie seemed one of them. Yet something about her unsettled people, even if they couldn't say why. Maybe it was how she wrapped her tools meticulously, as if they were sacred. Maybe it was that she never sat at the mess hall tables, choosing instead a dark corner beside the humming air conditioner, sipping ice-cold black coffee. Or maybe it was her eyes not sad, not weary, but holding more sight than her years would allow. Sergeant Griggs was the first to speak up. "I bet she can't even tell AC from DC," he said one midday, noticing Ellie kneeling before an aging electrical panel behind the hangar. His voice was louder than necessary, loud enough for everyone to hear. Laughter burst out. Everyone laughed not because the comment was funny, but because it was safe. Who was she, anyway? A strange woman in a maintenance station governed by order, and that order left no room for silence. Ellie did not look up. She gripped her pliers, nudged a wire, and then tightened a screw. Her hand did not tremble, yet moved with purpose. There was something in how she worked, unhurried, yet precise, suggesting she had rehearsed each motion in her mind 100 times, but not here. She did not use a tablet like the other techs. She did not consult a manual. She did not ask questions. She merely observed, touched each connection with her calloused fingertips, and listened to the hum of electricity through the circuit, a skill so old it transcended modern training. They whispered that she was odd, a lone wolf type. But there was one thing they all acknowledged, even if no one admitted it. Every piece of equipment she touched sprang back to life. Once, at Relay Station 3, the engineering team had thrown up their hands at a burned-out capacitor bank. They labeled it scrap and moved on to other tasks. Ellie arrived after her shift. She did not call anyone. She did not file a report. She simply removed the panel cover, shone a light inside, and began reconnecting the capacitor leads. She carried a spool of old-school solder, the kind no longer used on modern bases. She worked with 2 manual clamps and a temperature meter whose screen was cracked at the corner. After 23 minutes, the system emitted a sharp click and its lights blinked green. The next morning, the generator fired up flawlessly. No one knew what had happened, but Griggs, who had given up the prior evening, noticed first. And for the first time, he offered no quip. Yet Ellie claimed no credit. She did not send a report. She only crossed that system off her repair list. Then she moved on. Her silence began to grate on them. It was like a mirror reflecting the emptiness of their jokes and the team's careless indifference. She blamed no one, but her very presence made them feel exposed. "She never speaks to anyone," one soldier commented. "As if we're all background scenery. Or she thinks she's above us," another said. "Or she thinks about nothing at all. She just works." "No," a low, raspy voice interjected. It was Petty Officer Hill, the oldest member of the crew. "She works as if she's lost something inside these machines." No one replied. But from that day on, when Ellie entered a room, the laughter died down. They still did not know her full name. She never introduced herself. No one knew which base she came from or where she had served if she had served at all. In the system, she was merely a contractor from a maintenance firm. No military record, no SEAL file number, no indication she had ever held a weapon. Just Ellie. A woman with somber eyes and an inexplicable mastery. But everything changed on a windy afternoon. When a swirl of desert dust hit the old generator shed, and a slight movement tore the back of her coveralls. A tattoo emerged, bold, weathered, unmistakable. It was too soon for them to believe, but too late to turn away. That afternoon, nothing foretold the coming change. The desert wind still raked every exposed surface with pinpricks of sand. The Mojave Point thermometer read 113 Fahrenheit. Anyone without a good reason was hiding in shade. But Ellie Shaw remained outside, kneeling beneath a dilapidated relay bay perched behind Equipment Hangar 4. She didn't complain, never did. Sweat beaded on her nose, soaking through her tank top until the fabric clung to her back like a second skin. She knelt on one knee, torso slightly twisted, fingers probing deep into the capacitor array that rattled with heat. In that moment, a slight shift of weight from knee to hip made her coveralls slide. The fabric tautened, then tore open a fine but definite rip down her spine, exposing sun-baked skin and, beneath it, a tattoo. Not the kind you flaunt in a bar. No soaring eagle or ornate kanji, but a stark, precise, haunting emblem, an oxygen mask respirator warped and cold, set beneath two crossed blades whose curves cleaved the silence. Surrounding it, a ring of numbers, clock-like symbols etched in cipher. Sergeant Griggs, fetching water a few paces away, froze. The bottle slipped from his hand and clattered to the ground. He squinted, then stepped back on instinct, not shock, but primal fear. "No, it can't be. SEAL team?" His voice cracked. No one answered. A third soldier saw Griggs's gaze, quickly drew his phone, and took a covert snapshot from a low angle clear enough. Click. And the flood began. That photo, though it showed only a sweat-darkened patch of back and a half, revealed tattoos instantly shared on the maintenance group's private channel. Within 30 seconds, someone added a simple line, "Confirmed, SEAL sigil, team, Razer 9? The question lasted less than a minute. Then another voice, using an old military ID code, replied bluntly, "Affirmative, SEAL, Special Ops, Team Code, Razer 9. No one else bears that mark but an active member." The base fell into an uncanny hush knot from a silenced PA or suspended work order, but from the people themselves. They stopped talking, no more jokes, and no one dared approach Ellie. But elsewhere far away at Naval Air Station Lemoore, a Key West Coast SEAL Command hub, someone received the image via a secure feed, unannounced, unattributed. The recipient, Brigadier General Benedict Gray. He said nothing for several seconds. Then he shut his office door, cut his conference call feed, and unlocked a data vault sealed since 2011. Project RZ9. Top, Secret Ops Unit, undisclosed. Status, all members MIA. He remembered each name on the list, not just in writing, but in voice, in gaze, in the smell of sweat and cordite inside an open-roofed helo cabin. And one name, the only one whose body he never positively identified. Her last record placed her in Afghanistan's Paktika border zone. The unit was ambushed, a fierce explosion, drone comms lost, all data streams severed. Then, only silence. General Gray still recalled the field report. Field technician. Not the most skilled operator, but the last seen alive, dragging equipment out of the blast zone. He signed off on Kia, MIA. Accepted it. Moved on in silence. And now, that Razer 9 emblem lay inked on a living woman breathing at a desert maintenance outpost. No mistake, that mark could not be replicated. It appeared in no manual. Only original team members knew its design, each line, each code tied to moments none but they ever witnessed. A vow buried beneath skin. "How is she alive?" Gray whispered, then summoned his aide. "I want every file on contractor Ellie Shaw. All logs, all electronic records, access trails, movements, now." Within 10 minutes, Mojave Point's comms office had an order from Fleet Command. Ellie Shaw is an active subject for military history verification. No alarms blared, no announcements made, but an underground tremor rippled outward. They once thought she was just a silent technician. But from the moment that tattoo appeared, everything changed. No one asked why she was so good anymore. Instead, they quietly wondered, if she's part of a missing SEAL team, what really happened? When a soldier falls, their name is carved into stone. When a soldier survives, they become a witness. But when neither happens, no body, no record, they become oblivion. Ellie Shaw is an oblivion crafted by design. When the base's personnel office received the service verification request from West Coast Naval Special Warfare Command at Lemoore, they followed protocol. Opened the contractor file. The ID system returned a simple record. Name, Ellie Shaw. Age, 37. Place of birth, Rhode Island. Managing unit. Temporary technical contractor. Contract code 3T2160-4. No military ID, no DD-214, no registration with the U.S. Veterans Affairs, fully civilian background, clean, lawful, fully certified for Level 2 maintenance. And that was exactly the problem. One of the officers in charge blurted out, "This record is too clean, suspiciously clean." Brigadier General Benedict Gray, who ordered the data pull, needed no further explanation. He knew it wasn't the first time he'd seen a sanitized record. That was how the military buried what must not be remembered. In 2011, Razer 9 was a special ops unit deployed on a Black Ops mission outside any official roster. 6 men, 1 field technician, no logistical backup, no rescue order if it failed. Everyone knew, everyone accepted. And, by all reports, they all died. Gray wasn't the direct commander of that final operation, but he signed off the last report. She stamped the confirmation that Ellie Shaw did not return. He remembered that moment vividly. The drone's final video feed was a blur of dust, smoke, a nearby blast, then silence. When the recovery team arrived, there was only charred wreckage and twisted gear. No sign of Ellie. No black box. No further contact. And in the military system, uncertainty defaults to the most manageable status. Maya presumed Kia, missing presumed dead. "We assumed she vanished into the sands," Gray whispered, hand resting on the faded tattoo printout. She was the one who spotted the minefield. The one who said, "Stay close, we'll move under radar." She let us through. We lived. She disappeared. That disappearance now knelt beside an aging relay bay in the Mojave, carrying a worn canvas bag, wearing a technician's coverall, sand, surviving in silence. Gray quietly studied the base's heat map tracking Ellie's movements. She never logged in, never sent a message. Left no digital trace except the neatly handwritten repair notes. She existed as if she didn't believe she was allowed to. "Not everyone survives war," he murmured. But surviving only to be erased is far more cruel. Whispers rose across the base. They wondered if she was part of a missing SEAL team. Why did no one know? Why did she never mention it? And how could she return with no send-off, no confirmation, no one calling her a hero? A young archivist technician muttered, "She's like a ghost, repackaged as a person." Gray knew why. He'd seen cleansed records before. Partly because the mission was too secret. Partly because any survivor's existence posed a political risk. Not because they betrayed anyone, but because they proved something was wrong. Maybe someone ordered the mission without proper approval. Maybe the plan was compromised. Maybe the entire team was sacrificed to keep some diplomatic channel clean on paper. Whatever the reasons, the outcome was always the same. Witnesses must vanish. Survivors, if any, were given new lives, no papers, no names. And if they accepted, they were never called by their old ranks. But Ellie never got a choice. She didn't negotiate. She just didn't come back. And even now, she remains silent. Her tattoo is the only proof. It isn't in any file. It has no code designation. But every angle of that mask, every stroke of the crossed blades, every symbol around the cipher dial was designed by the Razer 9 members themselves, on a remote base, under an oath. If one survives, the whole team will not be forgotten. She still survives, but the world has forgotten her. And Gray knows, if he does not act, her silence will bury another soldier this time, not with bullets, but with deliberate keystrokes. Dear viewers, take a moment to relax or sip some water, and stay tuned for the next surprising developments. Comment 1. If you're still here enjoying the story. Monday morning began like any other at Mojave Point. Hot, dry, and stifling. The wind blew in from the east, carrying fine sand that blanketed the warehouse steps. Inside the technical briefing room, the ceiling fan creaked as engineers, soldiers, and contractors shuffled into their seats, paper cups of coffee steaming with a burnt aroma, eyes fixed on the projector that had not yet been switched on. "Routine meeting," someone muttered, again about grounding straps or eye safety protocols. But something was different. The digital marquee read, "Presenter, Ellie Shaw." A few heads snapped up. A few brows furrowed. Griggs slumped toward the back, whispering, "They must have mistyped her name. She's not even on the regular roster." Ellie stepped up without explanation. She wore her usual worn coveralls, zipped almost all the way up, sleeves neatly rolled. But her boots were newly polished, and in her hand was a stack of print snot, the standard technical slides everyone else used, but black and white schematics hand-marked in ink, some edges yellowed. She switched on the projector. A diagram appeared not from the engineer's manuals, but a battlefield-style power routing map, manual jumpers, primary battery taps, minefield bypass loops, and ground contact points. Nobody spoke. Ellie began, her tone steady and low. "This is a power feed diagram for ambush conditions, used when the support station is taken out and no grid power remains. If any of you have operated in a decompressed zone or undefined area, you know things can short at any moment. This sequence is designed to keep power running just long enough for the last person to get out. She paused, letting the drawings hang on the screen. This isn't in any manual. A voice called from the back, Sergeant Griggs. His tone lacked mockery, now only an attempt to confirm what he shouldn't be seeing. No, Ellie replied, eyes never leaving the diagram. It was drawn in the field, before we lost comms, when we were abandoned. The room froze. Griggs rose slowly. Who drew this? Ellie inhaled, then quietly stepped in front of the podium. She said nothing, just gently unzipped her coveralls a little enough to pull the collar aside. No showmanship, just a very human gesture, yet within it was a declaration. On her upper left chest, just beneath her collarbone, the top of a tattoo was revealed, 2 crossed blades, the head of a breathing mask, and the deeply inked number, 03. A tense silence ensued. She spoke, her voice low. Make 03, SEAL Team, Operation Razer 9. No one moved. Even the ceiling fan seemed to pause. Ellie rezipped her coveralls, unhurried. She did not look at them with triumph. She did not demand recognition. She simply spoke the truth. This is the protocol we used when surrounded. I installed it once, on the Paktika border. It kept power until the last bird lifted off, not because it was by the book, but because it was enough to survive. Her gaze swept the room, resting briefly on each face. The soldiers who had once avoided her eyes, the techs who had ridiculed her old gear, the ones who believed someone like Herselant, reserved, could never have been a SEAL. We were not rescued, she continued. But some of us got out. And diagrams like this, installations like this, may be the only reason they lived to tell the tale. Someone in the back cleared their throat. Not from coughing, but from not knowing what else to do. Griggs lowered his head. Griggs whispered, "She's real." A younger soldier, perhaps new to the bass, tentatively raised his hand. So, you're not a contractor? Ellie regarded him for a moment, then answered without reproach. I am, but not from the start. And as she stepped away from the podium, no one laughed, no one applauded. But the room where she had once been invisible felt like a shell stripped bare. Silent, but transformed. For the first time since she arrived at Mojave Point, Ellie was no longer the ridiculed woman. She was Mako 3, the one who came home. The conference room lay empty. Officers and technicians drifted away as if carrying something they dared not speak. Yet Ellie remained seated at the small front table. The flickering fluorescent light overhead cast a rectangular shadow across her back. The door swung open. Brigadier General Benedict Gray stepped in. He brought no aids, offered no greeting. He simply stood in silence for a few seconds, as if to confirm whether the woman before him truly was the soldier he had long believed to be dead in the desert sands. Ellie looked up. Her expression was unchanged, neither overly moved nor forced. Yet that gaze alone caused the general to take an involuntary step back, as though he had glimpsed something beneath skin, uniform, or tattoo. He saw memory. The last time I saw you, he said, was through a thermal lens. Sand caked your face. Your shoulder was wounded, yet you still dragged that 80-pound piece of gear up the ridge. Ellie nodded slightly. That equipment kept 2 of us alive until the beacons came on. You never returned. I was not allowed to, she replied softly. Gray sat down opposite her. His face bore deep lines, the scar running from his ear to his neck a reminder of that final engagement. Ellie had once stitched him up in the field. Now the scar had faded white, but the haunting remained in his eyes. "I filed your name as missing," he said. "That was the order." "I know," Ellie answered. She did not accuse him, but her voice carried the weight of one who has delved so deep into pain that only calm remains. After that, he continued, "We were ordered to erase the Razer 9 roster. No names, no designations, survivors. Were reassigned or quietly discharged," Ellie interjected. "And I never came back. They used my absence to wipe the record." Gray pressed a hand to his forehead. A gesture of a man who once gave orders, now confronting their fallout. "They said you were chosen," he whispered. "Chosen to keep silent. To protect our reputation. To safeguard the military's image." Ellie remained silent. She reached into her canvas bag and retrieved a crumpled sheet. The Paktika field wiring diagram. She placed it before him. "No," she said. "I was not chosen. They did not pick me to protect anyone. They chose to erase me, to bury a mistake." The room felt colder, though the sun still blazed outside. "I was ordered to remain silent," she continued. "No signals, no contact, no public survival. I obeyed not out of blind loyalty, but because I believed someone would correct it later, but no one came." Gray closed his eyes. Something in him, long cracked, was beginning to give way. "You have every right to be angry," he said softly. "No," Ellie replied. "I have the right to be remembered." It was not a demand, but a simple, undeniable truth. "I do not need honors," she said. "I do not need anyone to call me a hero. I only want my name not to vanish as though I never existed." Gray looked down at the paper symbols, diagrams, pencil sketches worthless to those who did not know. But to him, they were a lifeline, evidence. He folded the sheet and placed it in his breast pocket. "You will not be forgotten," he said in a low voice, "not while I live." Ellie nodded gently and rose. "Perhaps I will never rejoin the team," she said, "but at least the truth will not be buried again." They did not embrace or shake hands. They were simply two soldiers, on opposite ends of a silence, looking at each other as witnesses. There was no need for forgiveness, only acknowledgement. Outside, the wind rose again, sweeping Mojave dust across the base dust that had once buried many names, but now was slowly returning one. 3 days after the briefing, on a rare windless midday at Mojave Point, a special package arrived at the maintenance center. No wooden crate, no folded flag, no military tape, just a thick brown envelope, sealed, bearing the signature of Brigadier General Benedict Gray. Ellie accepted it without surprise. She knew it would come, only not when. Inside was a brief document, under a pagetitled "Restoration of Honor and Veteran Recognition, pursuant to Supplemental Provision 214A. No fanfare, no press conference, no grand ceremony on the chessboard. But to her, it was enough. Not for its legal weight, but because it shattered the silence that had bound her for 13 years, the official erasure of an error. Yet there was something even quieter and more moving waiting for her at her workstation. The chief engineer, without orders from above, had affixed a small stainless steel plaque to the edge of her bench. Its laser-etched inscription was unassuming, yet unmistakable. Ellie Shaw, Navy SEAL, Mako 3. No gossip, no flag raising. But from that day on, no one knocked on her door out of protocol, they knocked out of respect. Ellie changed nothing in her routine. She still carried her worn canvas bag and wore the same coveralls frayed at the knees, with no medals pinned on. The only signs of her extraordinary past lay in small details. A length of paracord, wrapped watch strap, fingerless gloves, and her eyes deep, as if they had looked through time. That afternoon, golden sunlight angled across the relay shed, slanting through dust-flecked windows. Ellie sat alone at the capacitor bank, carefully replacing a capacitor as always. No music, no chatter, only the steady click of metal on metal, like the heartbeat of a survivor. Then came the sound of footsteps, soft, unhurried. She didn't turn, but heard 3 breaths, 3 figures, young soldiers, never having crossed a true front line, yet brave enough to approach a symbol they had only dared observe from afar. One spoke, voice still rough with rookie nerves but steady. "Ma'am, we've been assigned to your team, starting this week." Ellie did not respond immediately. She set her screwdriver down and looked at them each in turn. They did not stand at attention or bow politely. They only showed up, like soldiers ready to learn what no manual taught. She glanced at the empty chair beside her, the old wooden stool with its loose boltan, then at her watch. She nodded once. "Class begins at 1900, she said. "Bring your watches fully charged, and if anyone thinks they know it all, pay attention to how silence works." The 3 nodded almost together. No one asked what they would learn. No one asked about Operation Razer 9. They didn't need to. They just needed to be there. Ellie watched them depart, then returned to her circuit board. Her hands moved with practiced precision, reconnecting wires out of muscle memory. Tomorrow, she would begin again, not from zero but from a place where truth was acknowledged. From a place where memory was no longer hidden, but used as a guide. Not with grand lectures, but by standing side by side. No bugle calls, no spotlights. Because those who deserve to be remembered are not the ones who loudly demand glory, but those who stay behind long after everyone else has left to teach others how to survive, not with weapons, but with knowing. Not by rank, but by unwavering resolve. And at 1900 that evening, in a weathered desert tech shop, 3 young soldiers sat in silence around Ellie Shaw, listening as she taught them to read the hum of current, to feel a burnout before it exploded. And they understood. They were learning from someone the world had forgotten, yet who never forgot how to save people. Some return from war without medals and with no one to greet them. They don't speak. They just keep living quietly, steadily, like Ellie Shaw. Yet it is people like her who form the silent foundation of what we call honor, loyalty, and survival. Ellie's story reminds us that sometimes the greatest courage is not charging into battle, but continuing to exist afterward when everything has turned away. If you know someone like that, someone forgotten but unbowed, please name them in the comments. Share this story if you believe no one deserves to be erased from memory. And if Ellie's story reflects something in your own heart, hit like, subscribe, and walk with us, because some memories can only live again when someone listens.